Hi, I'm Kyle Crown, president and broker.
My name's Andy Crown. I'm a senior account manager here at LAPMG. Today, we're going to talk to Kyle a little bit about the differences between commercial property management and residential property management. Kyle has an extensive amount of experience in commercial real estate, so he's the guy to talk to. So let's just dive right in. Very broad overview. What are the biggest differences between commercial management and residential?
Okay, so they're related, but totally different. And I think leasing, tenant management, maintenance, just how you handle situations and how you understand the needs of each tenant and client, owners of these properties is very different.
You said different. I'm going to ask a difficult question. Different good, different bad.
So with commercial leasing, there's usually a longer period of vacancy between tenants. We underwrite, quite a bit more time for vacancy and turnover than in residential leasing. An apartment, a home, it's going to be a 1-year lease, and that then goes usually month to month or has 1-year renewals, sometimes 2, usually 1-year renewals. With commercial leasing, we're hoping for 3 years, 5 years, sometimes 10 years in initial lease term, and then maybe there's option language for extensions of 1, 2, 3, 5, sometimes 10 years.
So that's more or less what I expected, pros and cons. Here's another difficult question. Someone drops $5 million in your lap. You putting it in residential or commercial? And if you're going commercial, what kind of commercial?
So my diplomatic answer would be that I'd want a balanced portfolio. I'd want residential real estate. I'd want commercial real estate. I'd want a mix of them. But if I have to choose one, my favorite investment right now, and really for the past 10 years, has been small flex spaces. Industrial space, maybe a little bit of office in the front, but a lot of industrial space in the back, somewhere between 1,000 and 2,000 square feet per unit. Clients who we manage for, who have that sort of space, rarely ever see vacancy. And when they do, just right away it leases up at what I think is a pretty good rental rate. So I really like that type of real estate. That's how I'd spend the $5 million.
Sometimes people ask me outright, which is more profitable, commercial or residential? The first thing I say is, well, you should talk to Kyle. You should ask him that question. The second thing I say is, depends what your goals are. If you really want stable, less drama, lower liability income, maybe go with commercial. Give us your answer. What are your thoughts there?
That is a question I specifically do not want to have to answer on the record, because I think that either could be most profitable depending on the investment, the tenants involved, and the client's goals or which milestones they want to hit, over a certain time horizon. And if I'm truly pressed right now, I think that it's easier to keep a cash flow coming in on residential real estate, multifamily real estate. But if I got to choose exactly what I wanted my portfolio to be, it would be more commercial real estate than residential right now, in the greater LA area, at least.
That makes sense. And I think we're hyping up commercial quite a bit. Here's the thing is, if you own a commercial property and there's a JCPenney's in there, might not be the best long-term. Whereas residential, people always need somewhere to live. So
and trends have changed which tenants come in and out of retail space. I mean, malls, it's a totally different mall now than it was 30 or 40 years ago.
If you owned a mega mall in the 80s, you were doing really well. And maybe now, not quite as much.
Yeah, so that's a good point. Malls still exist. Different kinds of tenants have started to fill in those retail spaces than the types of tenants you would have seen in the 90s or the early 2000s. It's maybe not exactly what those landlords had hoped for, but you can keep those spaces rented with new pickleball places and, laser tag arenas and churches. People will rent those spaces.
I think the reason that people sometimes go with residential, on paper, it looks a little bit more profitable. Can you speak to that?
When I used to be on the investment side, investments analyst for a real estate private equity investment firm, primarily industrial and flex space, we would underwrite 6 months at least for each commercial vacancy. And in residential, you would almost never do that. You assume that someone moves out, maybe it takes a month to get a new tenant in at worst, and that is nice for a cash flow perspective for residential landlords. But if you can stomach periods of longer vacancy, there are other advantages to commercial real estate that end up making it make sense.
That kind of brings me to my next point, regulatory considerations. Obviously, residential, you and I are getting emails every other week about something that came out from City of Los Angeles, new rule, new legislation. Do we see that as much with commercial?
We didn't used to. Commercial used to involve little to no regulatory oversight. And now I worry a little bit about the next few years and just how many more rules, regulations, laws they put into place that are designed to specifically hurt landlords and help tenants.
Concern is reasonable, of course, but as things stand today, I think it's safe to say that regulations are not as extensive on commercial properties than they are on residential. Sure, maybe they'll get there, but right now, not quite as much.
Yes, I think you're right that right now, commercial is much less regulated, but I just think it stays that way. Even if commercial becomes more regulated, I never think it will reach the level of regulation that we see or will see on residential real estate. So it's a safe bet that commercial is always going to be a little easier to manage in that way.
And Kyle, correct me if I'm wrong, we manage commercial and residential real estate?
Yes, Andy, we love residential and commercial. We're happy to manage either for any of our clients.
Thanks for tuning in, guys. I hope you learned a thing or two. Feel free to reach out to us anytime if you have questions.
Call the number below, go to our website. We'll look forward to talking to you.